Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, you incredibly intelligent and attractive individual. That's what you get for subscribing to the channel, by the way. Free compliments at the start of videos. Today we're diving into Torchlight 3. When you start Torchlight, just like any other game out there, especially an action RPG, you're going to be presented with the question, what class should you play? Torchlight 3 gives you 4 classes. We're going to talk about all 4 of those. We're also going to talk about the Relic system, which is basically kind of like a subclass to your main class. Only with the Relic system, you can't change it. So I want to give an overview of the 4 classes, and then we're going to talk about the Relic system, and then we're going to do a deeper dive into each class's skills that you can level up as, obviously, as you level through this action RPG. Just as a note, it is currently at the time of this recording, at the start of this game, it is not supporting crossplay. I just want to kind of put that out there. Most games tend to start going in that direction, and some games that are coming out are always or starting to launch with crossplay. So a number one question I've been getting about this game is, does it support crossplay? And the developers have said that they'll look into it after launch if the demand is there. So if you really want that, be sure to raise your voice in that regards. So anyway, that aside, I just wanted to get that out of the way in case you're interested in that information. The 4 classes start as the Railmaster, the Forged, the Dusk Mage, and the Sharpshooter. The Railmaster is kind of like a beefy tank with a train pet, and yes, you heard me correctly. We'll go over their skills and what you have access to here again in a second. The Forged is an up-close and personal, really kind of beefy melee class. Obviously, you have swords, you have a couple of different weapons, but they also have a tank gun, so it has this up-close and personal, but it also has a ranged attack, which I think gives it a lot of versatility. Overall, its look was the one that they kind of highlighted the most when they started kind of promoting the game itself. So you think about it, if you want to play a big beefy robot, you have that ability with the Forged. The Dusk Mage is your mage. It deals light and dark damage. Personally, it's the one that I've spent the most time with when playing this game, and especially at higher levels, you have a wide access to a lot of different skills and like just boons. It's really, honestly, I really enjoy the Dusk Mage. I'm a caster at heart, so ultimately I don't want to steer everybody down the Dusk Mage path because you can kind of feel kind of like, hey, it's just a typical caster, but you balance the darkness and the light, and as you level up, you have a lot of different skills that you can kind of really build out some interesting different play styles with Dusk Mage. And then Sharpshooter, also a pet class, having a lot of different summons, using the ability to move around. That's one of the things that I will say. I'm trying to keep my opinion mostly out of this video as a guide, but it feels like the movement skills are, I would love to have them had them sooner, and I would say that with all of these classes, one of the things you should prioritize is a movement skill once you have access to them, and we'll cover those in the deep dive of the skills itself. So all in all, I don't think you have any wrong choice here. You can make up to 10 characters in this game, so I would recommend, if nothing else, start as, make at least one of each and play around and get a feel for it for like a first couple of levels, and then decide which one's going to be your main. There's no wrong answer when it comes down to that. So you have a lot of choice when playing. Now, I would still say, like, if you want to be up close and personal, if that's the kind of playstyle you want, you can't go wrong with the Forged or the Railmaster. I would ultimately say to a new player, especially with my friends, if they were saying what should you play as, I would say the Railmaster, because though it's a train style pet, it's still pretty interesting. You still feel like you hit pretty hard, and once you kind of upgrade your train, you end up having, it's just so weird. It's like a train. Anyway, I would probably point people into the Railmaster, followed by the Forged. If you wanted range, I would probably put you into the Sharpshooter category first and foremost, followed by the Dusk Mage overall, because the Sharpshooter has a lot, I think, that they can work with, a lot of movement, a lot of damage power. In fact, when you're actually using it, you're always kind of stocking up your arrows, and so there's a lot of fun things that you can do. So I tend to favor pets, so if you could see that Railmaster and Sharpshooter tend to be where I kind of favor it. And when I say pets, I mean kind of little summoning attackers. Everybody in this game gets a pet, and we'll cover that here in just a second. But we'll go ahead and start right to left in this case with the Railmaster. Let's take a look at their skills. I'm going to go ahead and just hit continue. And you have a lot of different customization options. I'm sure somebody's got a video up on that on YouTube if you want to see all the different customization options you have available. This is where the game gives you your first hardest choice, in this case, your Relic. Again, you cannot change this. Now, if I click on the Relic, I can easily select between any of the Relics themselves here, and the Relic is going to define active and passive skills that apply to you. As you level, you're going to be able to slot points into that, and I'll show you guys that interface here in just a second, as that way you know what to expect when you level and get points. But overall, you also have 2 skill trees that you can kind of focus in on. In this case, when you look at the skills, you'll see a lot of active skills. If it says passive, obviously that's like a trait. That's going to be something that's always going on. But let's go ahead and start here. You have Mortar Car. It mutually exclusive with the Flamethrower Car. When active, it makes the mortar turret fire an incendiary round that deals 80% damage over time for 6 seconds. It has a passive ability. It adds a mortar turret to the rear car, and it shoots periodically for 150% weapon damage. As you level your train, it's going to get longer. It's really quite interesting. Honestly, you should try it out. I don't know if it's going to ultimately be yours, but it is at least entertaining to see. Then you have Ghost Train. You can call forth the spirit of an ancient train, and it moves forward doing 160% weapon damage, and it knocks back your foes. Then you've got Build Train. This is active to build a train. Doing this places the Railmaster into a lay rail mode, allowing you to continually place track behind you as you move. Toggling the skill again ends the track, and your lead car passively shoots at enemies for 30% weapon damage. Then you've got your this is mutually exclusive of your shield car, so you can see different kind of cars that you can kind of implement. This active shoots a single large slug that pierces enemies for 280% weapon damage. The passive side of it is periodically fires a large blast of fire and hits the area for 70% weapon damage. The endurance bonus here is the shotgun car quickly fires 5 slug shots instead of its normal attack. Then you've got your Mortar Car here, the Flamethrower Car. This is mutually exclusive with Mortar Car. I struggle with reading. I do apologize. Active makes the Flamethrower blast a wide cone of flame that deals 290% weapon damage. I'm hyper dyslexic, by the way. This is my nightmare reading. Passive, it adds a Flamethrower Car to the rear of the train that periodically shoots a gout of flame, leaving enemies burning for 30% weapon damage for 2 seconds, and the endurance bonus is the car uses an active instead of its normal attack for 5 attacks. Then you've got your shield car. This is mutually exclusive with the shotgun car. It actively shields a car around you for 8 seconds. Standing in the shield grants you 50% damage reduction. Its passive is 10% damage reduction when you are in your train or near your train, And then shocking rounds. Your lead car passively fires electrified rounds that arc to nearby enemies, dealing 20% damage, additional damage. Activating the skill makes your chain lightning strike an additional target. The endurance bonus is that while shocking rounds is active, your endurance generates 50% faster. All of these skills, as you can see here with the kind of additional skills, are able to level up with additional skill points. So as you grind out XP and get skill points, you can actually invest them continually in that skill to overall improve its perks and its damage and its bonuses. You'll see that they obviously increases in points. So to get to tier 3 for this skill, just for example, is 10 skill points on top of using it. So you would have 11 skill points and you can level it up that way. 10 skill points. My brain is being ridiculous. Then on the right hand side, we've got Pound. So again, you have kind of 2 different active kind of skill sets itself. Pound is going to slam your weapon to deal 230% weapon damage in a small area of effect with a 10% chance to stun your foes. If an enemy is already stunned, it deals double the damage. Then you've got your Flying Picks. This throws around 2 pickaxes, dealing 40% weapon damage that leaves enemies bleeding for an additional 60% weapon damage for 60 seconds. Then your Spike Drive, sunder your earth with your weapon, sending out cracks that deal 250% weapon damage and leaves enemies slowed for 50% for 6 seconds. Hammer Spin is going to spin around you with your hammer and dealing 230% weapon damage, passing through and knocking back your foes, offering you a chance to escape. And the endurance bonus tied to here is gain all charges of Pound, Blasting Charge, and Flying Picks. Then you've got Torque Swing. Swing your hammer with a massive force, dealing 240% weapon damage and a large area of effect, knocking away nearby enemies. There's an endurance bonus here. Send forth a whirling hammer crashing through the enemies in front of you, dealing 420% weapon damage. Blasting Charge. Throw out a blasting charge that deals 60% weapon damage and applies vulnerability, causing enemies hit to take 25% additional damage for 6 seconds. An endurance bonus of throw 2 additional blasting charges, covering a larger area. And then Lantern Flash. Use the power embedded in your ancient lantern to burn enemies for 70% weapon damage for 6 seconds, and an endurance bonus of when the burn duration ends for the enemy or the enemy dies, they explode for 140% weapon damage as well. So Those are the skills of the Railmaster. We're going to come back again, like I said, and spend time with the Relics here all together itself. All right, so for your sharpshooters out there, under your precision skills and your adventuring skills, you've got your active skill of Onslaught. This rains down a hailstorm of arrows from the sky, dealing 60% weapon damage, and it lasts for 4 seconds. You have Explosive Arrow. This is an explosive tipped arrow that detonates on impact for 280% weapon damage. You have Tight Grouping. This is going to fire a slim cluster of arrows, dealing 150% weapon damage to all targets within the arc itself. You've got Reload. This is actually going to restore your ammo and reset your cooldowns of all your adventurer skills, these ones over here. Then you've got your Scattershot. Use your ranged weapon to do a short range, wide cone burst of projectiles, each dealing 290% weapon damage. Holding down this actually increases damage up to 870%. Massive damage target skill right there. Then you've got Targeting Strikes. Fire 3 piercing shots, each dealing 110 weapon damage, and you have 5 ammo that's going to cost you. And then you have Heartseeker. Fire a piercing arrow that knocks enemies back and does 280% damage, weapon damage, and it leaves them bleeding for 40% weapon damage for 6 seconds. One of the things you see here is the ammo cost that all of these skills have. As you're playing the Sharpshooter, your kind of mechanic, instead of like a mage having mana, you've got ammo, you got little arrowheads, and they recharge over time. And so that is one of the things that Reload ends up helping with. But at the same time, also, you can see what your different skills are going to cost you ammo-wise to play. Now, that does not count towards your regular basic attack, so you have unlimited ammo in that regards. Then on the adventure, you have Scout Bones. This summons an ancient rat spirit swarm that moves slowly, piercing targets for 120% weapon damage and leaves them poisoned for another 60% weapon damage for 2 seconds. You have an adventure bonus. The next 3 precision skills apply Scout's Poison, and that's going to last 6 seconds, and it overrides any current adventuring bonus that you might have. Then you've got Razil's Fate. Summon a field of hungry demon spirits, collectively known as Razili. These grasping hands damage all enemies for 70% weapon damage and slows them for 50%. Area lasts for 6 seconds. A bonus of the next 3 precision skills will immobilize your targets for 2 seconds. Then you've got Loyal Shastasha. Probably butchering the name, and it's just an awesome attacking pet that you can summon. Then you've got Ghost Visage. Drop the spirit realm and reappear in a new location, after which you are intangible, making you unable to be targeted and take damage for 6 seconds or until your next attack again. So if you attack, that bonus goes away. Then you've got your Curse of Papai. Courage, conjure forth a watchful presence of the insanity, including God Papai, inflicting 60% weapon damage and reducing their damage by 25% for 6 seconds. And then your next 3 precision skills will also apply this curse, stacking up to 3 times. Goblin Legion. I love Goblin Legion, by the way. You can summon a group of goblins that can continue to do damage for you as well. Again, that pet kind of concept. And then Sacrifice to Goose. Call down the spirit of a great eagle that you call Goose, who deals 60% weapon damage, knocking enemies back, and applies a 25% damage vulnerability to them for 6 seconds. There's a bonus here. You get your next 3 precision skills will fire 3 ghostly eagle missiles on activation, dealing 40% weapon damage on hit. All right, let's jump right now into Forged here. This is going to be what you want to do if you, like me, want to do a lot of damage up close and personal. Personally, again, play with him. I think it's interesting with that range that he's got going on for him. Vent on the left-hand side, you've got launch your hot coals from your furnace and land and set the ground on fire. Based on your heat level, it deals between 50% and 150% chest gun damage on impact and 100% of the initial impact damage per second over time, and that's going to last 6 seconds. You have Sonic Pulse. Unleash a pulse that explodes enemy weaknesses, increasing all damage against them by 40% for 6 seconds. Then you've got Rapid Fire. Unleash a torrent of bullets for 40% chest gun damage. Gain up to 10 stacks of 10% weapon damage multiplier for rapid fire each time you deal damage. The buff is going to last for 5 seconds. You can also see, like, under the skills, the different heat and vent options, so you kind of have a heat meter. Anyway, it'll make sense when you play. You kind of balance out your heat and your venting. Fire and a poison dart that explodes on impact, dealing 90% top to an enemy on impact and leaves them lingering spot that poisons enemies who stand in the area for 90% chest gun damage as poison per second for 6 seconds. Then you've got channel some of your heat to create a channelized blast of flame, dealing 100% chest gun damage, plus an additional 100% chest gun damage for 2 seconds, and that's going to reduce 50 heat in that case. Then you got shotgun blast, wide cone shaped attack that deals 70% chest gun damage for 13 heat. And then you have slugshot, unleash a single high powered shot that pierces enemies for 200% chest gun damage for 14 heat. On the right hand side, you've got your strike enemies in front of you for 4 rapid hits for 60% weapon damage each. Then you've got pound a single target directly in front of you with a slow, hard hitting hits of your fist, dealing 200% weapon damage with a 20% chance of stun for 2 seconds. Then you've got your cyclone mode, spin your way through foes, dealing 70% aerial weapon damage per second. And then you've got your ramming robot movement skill, charge a long shot your foes, dealing 240% weapon damage and knocking them back. Then you've got power projection, emit energy, an energy field, granting allies standing in the area 50% bonus to defense, and that's going to last 8 seconds. And then you've got vent vortex bomb. This is going to pull foes towards you, then unleash a devastating explosion based off your heat level, and it deals between 160 and 480% weapon damage and doubles armor while being used. Stuns enemies for 1 second. And then finally you have Vent Fracking Strike. Channel some of your heat into the fist and send rippling waves of earth that hits enemies multiple times for 0% weapon damage each and slows enemies by 50% for 4 seconds. And I'm betting that 0% is an error. So note to self that it's been fun being a part of early access, as I'm sure you are aware. And finally, let's talk about our Dusk Mage, one of my favorites, especially just because I'm a natural caster, and I'm gonna just pick on Bane. We'll go ahead and after Dusk Mage here, their skills, we'll actually go through all of these relics for you guys. All right, so light and darkness, that's just kind of how the Dusk Mage themselves work. Obviously, the name kind of implies that in a fun play on words, but let's go ahead and dive in. Radiant Blast, this is light skill, blast enemies in a target location with Holy Light, dealing 210% weapon damage. Then you have Holy Fury. This is a light skill, brings the light to bear in a focused energy beam that deals 330% weapon damage over time and slows enemies, and their slow percentage is 50%. Holy Bolt, light skill directs Holy Bolt that focuses 250% weapon damage. And then you've got your Light Spear. This is going to fire a spear made of light that deals 870% weapon damage and pierces targets. Then you've got your Absolver. This is going to direct 3 piercing bolts of light that each deal 260% weapon damage. Additionally, while in harmonic form, you can charge enemies for 2 seconds, making them explode every second for an additional 260% weapon damage burst, etc. Consecration, this is where you put this on the ground. Awesome skill, personally. Really happy with it, especially if you level it up. You're going to have everyone in the Blessed Circle is going to gain 35% bonus damage with the Dust Mage, dealing an additional 15% per ally in the circle. So team up with your buds. You see this on the ground, get in it. Then if you level it up, it actually has a healing bonus to you as well. So just kind of, cool stuff. All right, then you've got your movement skill here. Luminous Run, skill, dash forward, and enter into the spectral plane where you can move faster and you can pass through enemies. That's going to last 2 seconds. All right, then on the dark side, you've got Unholy Bolt. This is going to unleash 3 serpentine bolts towards your foes for 170% weapon damage. Then you've got your Spirit Well. This is going to summon a portal into the Netherrealm, taking control of evil monsters who do 20% damage of your weapon to any monsters in your way. Then you've got Entropy. This is going to fire an unstable dark energy ball that hits for 120% weapon damage and fires off pieces of itself to hit in the same. Then you've got your Shadow Step movement skill. This is going to teleport you away from your foes. Then you've got Damnation. This is going to be enemies deal 50% less damage while standing in the Damnation area effect, lasting for 4 seconds, thereafter 8 seconds, and then thereafter 8 seconds. And then from here, Dark Spears. This is going to summon shadowy spears that strike your foes for 80% weapon damage every second and slows enemies by 50%. And it's going to last for 6 seconds. And then you have your Energy Spike. This is going to conjure a series of cascading chaotic spikes that strike enemies for 570% weapon damage. So all in all, again, hopefully this has been a good skill overview for you. Let's dive into the relics. And if you guys enjoyed this or you have any questions about the game itself, feel free to obviously sound off in the comments below. So with Bane, you get these skills as well, and just like everything else, they level up. You put points into them, and we're going to go from there. So Bane has the first thing is a passive skill. When you hit a poison enemy, gain 10% chance to summon 2 poisonous spiders. Spiders have a lifespan of 10 seconds. Then you have a active skill, Poison Nova. Violently release a wave of toxic projectiles around yourself, dealing 245% weapon damage as poison for 6 seconds after casting. Your total defense is increased by 50%. Staffing up. Its master once wielded a staff. Now, Bane celebrates those who do. Basic attacks have a chance to conjure up an enchanted staff, which will attack enemies on its own for 20 seconds. And then Miasma. Releasing toxic vapors of Bane surrounding you in a cloud of poison mist, lasting until the relic energy is depleted. The cloud deals 110% weapon damage as poison per second. While the buff is active, you can nearby allies deal 25% more damage, and your defenses are increased by 50%. Then you've got Assaultier, project 6 spectral spiders that surge from you, poisoning enemies for 200% weapon damage for 6 seconds, and the assault can be used after spending a total of 200 relic energy. You can also have your spectral spider summon an ancient spirit that deals alongside you for 16 seconds, dealing 100% weapon damage as poison, and poison enemies for 75% weapon damage for 4 seconds. Then you've got Spread of Death. Spawn poisonous bolts around you that deal 45% weapon damage when killing a critically hit poisoned enemies. Then you can see here Venomous Maw. Summon an ancient spider spirit that surges forward, dealing 210% weapon damage as poison impact for poisoning enemies for 210% weapon damage per second for 4 seconds. Then you have Puppet Master. Bane grants you increased power over those who fight for you. And then you also have Energizer as a passive skill. Become more attuned to your relic, increasing your relic energy and charge rate. Blood Drinker, we've got Spinning Blades. Summon spinning blades at the target location that hits enemies for 140% weapon damage as physical, and accidentally makes them bleed for 45% damage for 3 seconds. Then you've got Blades of Cutting. It's passive. The sight of the shapen sword makes Blood Drinker crave chaos. Basic attacks have a chance to conjure a death blade, which will orbit around you, dealing 150% weapon damage for enemies for 6 seconds. Then you've got Living Barrier. Create a bloody barrier around yourself, reducing incoming damage by 50% and healing you for 20 of your max health per second for 3 seconds. And Bloody Chalice. Killing a bleeding enemy has a 2% chance to drop a Bloody Chalice, which will heal you for 30% of your total health and grant you 2% damage reduction for 8 seconds when collected. Dance of Death. Manifest deadly spawning blades. They orbit you, slicing up enemies for 340% weapon damage as physical, and the blades last for 6 seconds. Dance of Death can only be used after spending 200 relic energy. Then we got Bloodletter. Blood Drinker slices to the bone, giving you 5% chance to bleed your enemies for 50% weapon damage for 3 seconds. Bloodseekers. Coat yourself in blood magic. A spell that drains your relic energy, lasting until the relic energy is depleted. The spell conjures blood-seeking missiles once every second, dealing 80% weapon damage as physical. Now, while the buff is active, you and nearby allies deal 25% more damage and restore 10% maximum HP per second. Rupture. This is going to hit a bleeding enemy, has a 5% chance to make them explode for 45% weapon damage in small areas. Then you have Drain. Steal life force from nearby enemies, dealing 225% weapon damage per as physical hit, healing you for 3% of your maximum HP per enemy hit. And then you've got Energizer. This becomes more attuned with your relic, increasing your relic energy and your charge rate. So then under Coldheart, this is going to be essentially kind of focusing on crowd controls, freezing, slowing, and knocking back immediate threats. You have your passive skill, Jagged Ice. Let them feel the taste of cold and the power that it offers. Then you've got Frost Blast. You fire a wave of icicles, dealing 300% weapon damage as ice and chilling your enemies for 6 seconds. Then you've got Ice Golem. Summons a massive ice elemental with 200% of your maximum health for 60 seconds. The elemental attack enemies for 150% weapon damage as ice. If the elemental is already summoned, instead command it to teleport to your location and slam into the ground as a powerful strike, dealing 600% weapon damage as ice. Then you've got Breaking Point and the passive category. When Frost Skin breaks, unleash Frost Nova, dealing 100% weapon damage and freezing enemies for 1 second. Then you've got Cold Front. It creates a localization winter storm and around you for 10 seconds, and the storm drops razor sharp icicles from above that deals 330% weapon damage as ice per hit. Cold Front can only be used after spending a total of 200 relic energy. Then you've got Ice Shield, an active skill. Transforms your skin into ice for 5 seconds, preventing the next 3 sources of damage. Ice Shield also fires icicles at nearby enemies, each dealing 200% weapon damage as ice. Frost Skin. Slowly form a second skin of armored ice, preventing all damage from a single hit. Frost Skin recharges automatically every 70 seconds. Then you got Large Bores. Cold gets in easier through bullet holes. Basic attacks now have a chance to fire a cluster of flying, sharpened icicles ahead of dealing 40% weapon damage to the first enemy head, and it requires that you have a rifle or a pistol equipped. In that case, Snowstorm summons a snowstorm around you and drains your relic energy, lasting until the relic energy is depleted. The snowstorm deals 100% damage per second of its ice shields nearby enemies. While the buff is active, you'll nearby allies will deal 25% more damage and gain 5% chance to freeze enemies for 2 seconds, and then Energizer, which is going to help you attune more to your relic overall. Electrode, we've got your localized storm. Channel a powerful storm around you that drains your relic energy, lasting until relic energy is depleted. The storm calls down lightning strikes once per second, striking a random target in a range of 270% weapon damage as electric. Then you've got your Shocking Force. A crushing force of a mace provides a greater conductivity. Excuse me, I apologize. I'm weak when it comes to reading. Basic attacks have a chance to call down 3 lightning bolts from the sky in quick succession, dealing 60% weapon damage. It requires you actually have a mace equipped. Lightning Barrier, channel a productive electric field around yourself, increasing block chance by 25% for 6 seconds. And while the field is active, periodically increase your release shock bolts and nearby enemies, dealing 100% weapon damage as electric. Lightning Strike. 2% chance to call down lightning as a strike when you hit a shockwave enemy, dealing 100% weapon damage. Then you've got 1000 Volt Burst. Blast electric shockwaves from your localization, damaging them for 585% weapon damage as electric. For 10 seconds after casting, increase your attack and cast speed by 50%. And 1000 Volt Burst can also be used after spending a total of 200 relic points, or relic energy, excuse me. Shocking Display is passive. Electrode delights in being used. Grants 2% chance you release shock bolts that deal 100% weapon damage when you slay a shocking foe. Then you have Chaotic Strikes. Summon 2 small storms that move chaotically away from you, dealing 400% weapon damage as electric. Then you have Tingling Sensation. This is a 2% chance shock enemies will hit for 3 seconds, releasing 3 shock bolts and dealing 50% weapon damage. Then you've got Conjure Electrode. Surge power through Electrode yourself, conjuring it into a targeted location for 8 seconds. Electrode will periodically fire shock bolts from itself, dealing 135% weapon damage as electric. And then obviously Energizer, which is going to help you attune more to your relic, thus making it more effective and more. Finally, Flaming Destroyer, and then we're going to talk about a little bit more of the game systems. I do thank you guys. I know this is a longer guide. Also, thanks to all my members for keeping mid-rolls off the channel. I really appreciate y'all's support. All right. Sword Smash, active skill. Summon an ethereal sword that slams into enemies in front of you, dealing 450% weapon damage as fire. Then you've got Magma Burst. When you kill a burning enemy, there's a 4% chance they will explode, or when you critically hit a burning enemy, there's a 1% chance that they will explode, both dealing 45% weapon damage. Then you've got Giant Swings. Like the great weapon it once was, Flaming Destroyer delights in seeing a massive instrument of pain. Basic attacks have a chance to obliterate enemies within the power of Fiery Shockwave, dealing 125% weapon damage. It requires that you have a great weapon equipped. Then you have Nimble Flames. Surround yourself with dancing flames. Blast enemies with 3 Fire Novas that deal 125% weapon damage as fire, granting 20% evasion chance and increasing additional Fire Novas on evasion. Nimble Flames last for 6 seconds. Summon Smash. Call forth a massive flaming swords that crash down from above, devastating enemies in the area for 725% weapon damage as fire, burning the survivors for an additional 725% weapon damage for 6 seconds. This can only be used after spending a total of 200 relic energy. Ignition source is passive. The Spirit of a Flaming Destroyer surges, giving you a 5% chance to burn enemies for 50% weapon damage for 3 seconds. You also gain a 2.5% evasion chance. Blazing Pillar. Conjure a pillar of fire that seeks enemies for 8 seconds, dealing 135% weapon damage of fire per second. Then you've got Cloak of Flames. Wreath yourself in a Cloak of Flames that drains your relic energy, lasting until the relic is completely depleted. The Ring of Fire, burns enemies for 160% weapon damage per second as fire. Then Firestorm. When you hit a burning foe, there's a 10% chance a Flaming Destroyer will drop a fireball onto them for 40% weapon damage. And then Energizer passive skill. Become more attuned to your relic, increasing your relic energy. Let's go ahead and pick on Bane. I'm just going to pick this just randomly. And I'm going to show you what happens after you select your character. In this game, you get a collection of pets, and you're going to find more pets as you play. So your relic is the more decision that you have to make immediately. However, you're going to get the choice between 3 pets. Pick whatever one you want. Honestly, I like dogs. I'm more akin to that, so that's what I'm going to ultimately end up picking. Now let's go ahead and dive actually into the UI, show you off the skills and how those kind of points lay out and what you need to do to unlock those, because all of those skills aren't available at the start. All right, so here we are on our skills. I've hit level 2 as a Railmaster since all my characters have been reset once more. And as you see here, you have the Conductor tree, and you've got the Coldheart tree, and you've got the Coldheart being your relic. And then you have your Slammer tree. So you can see here that as you spend points, different skill trees are actually going to open up as you hit different levels. In this case, up to level 20. And same thing here. So I can sit here and update my build train with new points. Once I hit level 5, I'll have more skills available here. So the way the game's kind of balanced is it first kind of wants to force you into adding in some new skills. So just kind of click and hold the skill. Boom, I now have it. And that is now my right click ability, so I can attack with that. The relic perspective also has that same kind of concept. You can see here you get more skill options as you level up, and those are going to be available to you, and those are going to be how you kind of build out those passive skills. You can see here the relic that I currently have equipped, and there we go from there. You also have your Legendarium. As you unlock different levels, 3, 20, and 40, you're going to have more options to equip different skills here, and you're going to get special points that will allow for that. And then you also have pet varying skills in which that you can swap in and out your pet overall. I think it's important though, because one of the things that can be a little bit frustrating is kind of that, like, you can't just go in and say, hey, I want to add in the flamethrower car. Like, you got to have level 20, and then you got to have points to put into it. So you want to kind of play around with that. So these are kind of the 3 skill trees that you have, and your points are all going to be used and shared to be able to put those into it. And you can see here how many points you have, and total points that are available will be 70, and then you'll be able to respec with a cost later in the game as well. So just kind of like, obviously when it comes down to builds, this isn't me telling you how to build out your character, but just kind of show you that just because we went and reviewed all those skills, they're not going to be necessarily available. Last but not least, it's not purchasable, but it's essentially as you play, you're going to unlock your battle, pass. It's kind of like your contract. You got a couple things: Craftsman's, Homesteader's contract, and your overall adventure contract. I would say, like, as you're playing, you probably want to keep your adventure contract leveled, because as you play, you're going to get this experience, and it's just going to unlock these various tier rewards for you, going all the way down the list into this case. So you have a lot of options to play with, and then you can see here it kind of gets respect, and then you just go from there. So hopefully this has been help. They've added a lot of things. They changed a lot of things. I think ultimately, and not to try to keep my opinion out of the guide more than nothing else, the most frustrating thing is having to start my characters over and over again. But now that the game is officially released, at least I'll be able to advance and play. If you guys have any questions, if this guide didn't answer it, if you're still kind of confused on anything, just let me know. Send off in the comments below. I'd love to be able to help you out. Hopefully, if you pick up this game, you end up enjoying it. I've enjoyed what I've played out of it, but if you guys want to see kind of a full review or something like that, let me know. I'll have to really dive back in and create my characters again. At least going forward, they're not going to become obliterated, which will help me make more time and invest more back into my characters again. So hopefully you enjoyed this guide. Thank you so much for watching. For Ginger Prime, my name is Brian. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.